Good morning, everybody. Welcome to You Did Not Know This. Yes, we had to make a slight change in the timing, scheduling it half an hour earlier at such a short notice. Apologize for the inconvenience, but I'm glad to see most of you are here already. So thank you for being here. Okay, so before we get started, I just wanted to acknowledge one thing. This is regarding the mass shooting that happened in Las Vegas. I don't know how many of you know this. In fact, nearly 60 people were killed and about more than 500 people were injured. And these guys were just going for a country music festival at Las Vegas. And this is one of the worst mass shooting that has happened in modern American history. So I just wanted to, I think we should take a minute and pray for the families to be comforted. And also it's a good reminder for us to, know that, life is unpredictable. And we should be so thankful and grateful for life itself and make the most of it. Yeah, so Sid, you seem to be knowing the issue, right? So yeah, that's about it. I just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge this. I think it's important, even though it's far away and it's happening in another country, it's still people and it's still about lives. So it should matter. Yeah, Sanjeev, 58 killed, yeah, that's right. So anyway, coming back to today's session, English as a language is constantly evolving, and we all know that new words are introduced in the dictionary on a daily basis, right? And it's no wonder that most of us are always confused with words in general, right? Not enough words, one word having different meanings in different contexts, right? I have words that sound the same but have different meanings and different spellings, right? So today's session we're going to take some time and focus on these confusing word pairs. There are some common confusing word pairs that most of us, I'm assuming you should be aware of, but we'll take a look at a couple of them, right? So I think we have quite a bit to cover, so let's get started. That'll be great, Sid. I think we should do that in our own time. I just wanted to bring out and highlight that issue. Yeah, let me share the screen. So the first confusing word pair that we have is hung versus hanged, right? So anybody knows the difference? So quickly, the thing about hung versus hanged is both of them are the past tense and the past participle of the word. Which word? Let me just change the color here. Nobody seems to know, so I'm just going to write it down, right? So even if I take hung, I would say hang, hung, yeah, Sid, hung, right? So this is one thing. The other one is hang, hanged, hanged, right? So there are, and both of this, so this is present tense, obviously, right? This is past tense, and this is the past participle. So likewise, this is also the past tense, and this is also the past participle, right? So just to differentiate, you hang your clothes, right? You can hang a sign, you can hang a picture. So just to put it in context, so if I say, I hung a picture, of my son on the wall. Okay? Hang, hung, hung, true. Okay, hung a picture of my son on the wall. He was hanged for murder. So the only thing that you need to understand is, the only difference when I say between hung and hanged is, you will use this hanged only in the context of when you're referring to death by hanging. Okay? So if a person is being suspended by a rope around the neck until death, that's the only time you will use hanged. Okay? What about hung? So if I say, but what about friends just pulling a prank on you, right? They catch you and they hang you upside down, right? For those sort of situations where you're talking about, the intention is not that the person should die, right? You're just suspending somebody. So let me give it to you in a context again. So let me say, if I say, my friends pulled a prank on me and hung me upside down. Right? So here, even though, right, this person is suspended, but it's not like they're putting something around his neck and hanging him till he dies. Right? So in a context like this, you will still use hung and not hanged. Got it? So this is the only thing that you need to keep in mind. Now, I wanted to also spend some time in terms of other phrases. I will put a couple of phrases. Can you give me some phrases for example, if I said hung over or hung back? Can you think of phrases which go with hung? Parul, Vijay Lakshmi, Vijay, Sasi, Shubhi. Hung on, yep, hang on, okay. Anything else? What about hung up? Or hung about? Or hung around? Right? Whenever you are, yes, Aman. So whenever you're looking at words, try and associate it to, words that usually go together, right? Quickly think of collocations. So hungover means you're suffering from a hangover. I'm sure all of you know what a hangover is, right? You've had too much to drink in a very short period of time. And the after effects of that is, you're having headache, nausea, dizziness, right? That's a hangover, right? What about hung back? So if I say, I requested some students, when I requested some students for volunteering, they hung back, which means they were unwilling or they were hesitant to come forward, right? What about hung on? You can hang on to somebody's, every word to hold on to or to wait on it, right? Hung up means, hung up has two different meanings. Hung up can be like, you're talking to someone on the phone and they suddenly just put the phone down, right? They hung up on you. Hey, I was just talking to her and she just hung up on me. Or in another context, you could say, why are you so hung up, in life? What does that mean? Why are you so confused? Why are you so puzzled with a particular problem that you're going through, right? Why are you so hung up? Hung around, that's the next one. Hung about, hung around. Somebody, to put it in context, I can say, okay, we had a party last night at our house, right? But a couple of our friends just hung about after the party, which means what? They just chilled, not doing anything. They just were there, okay? So it's good for you to quickly associate. Yes, you're right, Shubhi. Right, let's move on. Rise versus raise. That's our next confusing word pair, right? Rise versus raised. So what do you think is the difference between these two? Some of you, most of you might already know. If you do, please let me know. The first thing that you need to know, rise, raise. Okay. So let's look at present tense, past tense and past participle. So rise, rose, risen. Raise, raise, raised, raised, right? That's the first difference. So what do you mean by this? By just putting them in this context, present tense, past participle, the three verbs, the second difference is very obvious, right? Rise is an intransitive verb. Intransitive verb means what? It does not require a direct object. Okay. Raise, on the other hand, is a transitive verb, which means what? It requires a direct object. Yes, Gauri. Right? So, let's quickly look at some example sentences, to make sure we are very, very sure about this. Good example, Shubhi. Raise your voice against crime, right? So let's look at a couple of, So usually nowadays when we go to the theatre, this is something that we have to follow as a protocol, right? We rise for the national anthem. Prices are rising. The hair rose on the cat's neck. She rose to the occasion, won the election. He rose from the dead. The bread dough should rise to double its original size. Hot hair rises. In all these example sentences, if you notice, I'm going to highlight something. Can you tell me what that is? Right, and then here there's nothing after rising and rise. What are all these phrases that I've highlighted? Anybody? Yeah, so what are all these phrases that I've highlighted? Sid, Venkatesh, Vijay. So Muthu, can you tell me what are these phrases that I have highlighted? Okay. So I'm still getting a little more specific. I'm putting some words in brackets. What are all those words? For, on, to, from, to. What are all those words? Yeah, what phrases are they, Muthu? No. They're prepositional phrases, right? So if you notice, rise, which is the intransitive verb, is followed by a prepositional phrase and not a direct object, right? So keep that in mind. Yes, thank you, Ashi. These are all prepositional phrases, right? So that's one thing for you to keep in mind. Now let's look at the other ones. Sid raised an important question. John raised his voice. Raise an employee's salary. Raise a flagpole. Alex raised the loads with a crane. So in all these, if you see, there is an object, right? Sid raised what? An important question. John raised what? His voice. You raise what? An employee's salary. So you remember, nouns are both subjects and objects, right? So which means all of this is objects. These are the direct objects answering the question what, right? You raise a flagpole. Alex raised the loads with a crane. Just for example's sake. Yeah. So you always have a direct object. So that's the difference between transitive and intransitive. Somebody asked me, right? So intransitive verbs do not take a direct object. Transitive verbs do. That's your difference. Are you following? So that's all the difference between. But it's also good to, like I keep saying, right? It's always good to associate these words to common expressions. Let's look at some expressions. Let's look at some idioms, right? You raise hell. Look at the context. Anu will raise hell when she sees what you've done with the house after the party. What does raise hell in this context mean? Raise eyebrows. Shweta raised her eyebrows over some of the suggestions. Raise the stakes. The bank robber decided to take a hostage in order to raise the stakes. Can you quickly tell me what is the meaning of these expressions in this context? Right, I've underlined the expressions. You come back and tell me what is the meaning of these expressions in the context. Yes, so Anu she's definitely going to shout and create a scene, right? She might just behave almost to an extent of a rowdy. Yes, she's going to shout, she's going to be extremely angry, right? Raise eyebrows. Shweta raised her eyebrows over some of the suggestions, which means what? She was either surprised, like seriously, this is the suggestions that you have to give me, or she's in fact even mildly disapproving the suggestions, right? She's like, I don't think that will work, right? Mildly disapproving. Raise the stakes. The bank robber decided to take a hostage in order to raise the stakes means what? Is making it extremely challenging. So he's getting even more involved in this whole robbery thing, right? He went a step higher by taking a hostage. He just didn't rob the bank. So you could say you raise the stakes when you want to either increase your commitment in something or involvement in something, right? Make it more challenging. And some collocations. Raise cattle, raise crops. You always raise children. You raise money. You raise a revolt. You raise an army. So these are words that usually get associated with raise, right? Something that you need to register. Let's move on to our confusing word pair 3, illicit versus elicit. Now let's look at two contexts. It says here, in the prison, inmates are prohibited from having illicit items such as drugs, alcohol, and weapons. So it's already highlighted in bold here. What do you think can be the meaning? A hostage is somebody that you keep so you can bargain, right? You've seen a lot of movies, right? Bank robbery, what do? They want to kind of negotiate with the law or the police saying, I want this much, then only if you meet my demands, I will release the hostage, whoever I have kept captive, right? So that's a hostage. Coming back. Yeah, illegal, right? Okay, you're giving me the meaning. I want you to tell me what's the word class. I hope you know what the word class is. Is it a noun form? Is it an adjective form? Is it a verb form? What's the word class? Illicit is describing the items, right? So it's an adjective. What about elicit? The police chief hoped to elicit the truth about so what is he trying to say? Elicit can be what? First of all, it's a verb, right? To do something. He's hoping to do something. To elicit the truth. So what can now tell me the meaning? Illicit, all of you said illegal. Something unlawful, right? Not the right thing to do as per law. Elicit means to evoke or to draw out, yes. Right? Or even provoke. So illicit is always an adjective. Elicit is a verb. Okay? Now, few collocations again. No, Muthu, it's not a noun. So let's look at few collocations, right? You always elicit a response. You can elicit the truth, like in our context, right? What about illicit? You will usually see this word associated with illicit drugs, illicit relations, illicit love, illicit practice, right? These are the collocations that usually go with this, this word. Okay? We've looked at a couple of word pairs. Now I made it a little more easier for us to categorize a couple of them in terms of, noun versus verb. The most famous confusing word pair with respect to noun versus verb is affect and effect. We know that. Right? Let's take a look at a couple of other things as well in terms of noun versus verb. This is our first one. We know this. The government's action had little effect on the trade imbalance. There are many ways in which computers can affect our lives. So how do I know this obviously is the noun? The government's action had little what? It answers the question what, right? Little is my adjective describing the noun effect. There are many ways in which computers can do something, right? This is a modal verb. So this has to be a verb. Computers is the subject. Computers can, subject, verb, object. Yeah? So this we know. This is a very famous one. We know this. I want you to identify from these which one is the noun and which one is the verb. Anu promised to follow his advice. The first one, advice. Varun advised her to see a doctor, right? Can you quickly tell me what's the noun and what's the word? A verb. Yeah. Follow his what? Answering the question what, right? Has to be the noun. Varun, subject. Advice, this is the action word, so it has to be the verb, right? So the only difference, let's look at the next one. Our usual practice is to keep a written record of all meetings. You must practice more if you want to enter the competition. So obviously here again, our usual practice, usual adjective describing the practice, our usual what? Answering the question what? Noun. You must, modal verb, has to be the verb, right? What about the other one? His actions are obviously a device to buy time. A device. This device can measure minute quantities of matter. Device. We devised a scheme to help him. Devised. So in the last one, his actions are obviously, I have the hint, indefinite article a. So it has to be a noun. This device, this what? Again noun. We devised, we, subject, verb. So if you notice in all these three, the only difference is the letter C, right, in all these words is the noun and the letter S in all these words is the verb. I want you to pay attention to one thing. Practice, in fact, in American English, you will see them using practice for both noun and verb, right? So if you come across somebody using C, which is a noun, as a verb, you know it's American English and it's accepted there. So, but just for our sake, in terms of, spot theatre and things like that, we follow the British English. So we will stick to C is used for noun alone. Yeah, just to clarify that. So you might come across sentences where they are using CE as a verb. Like for example, if I say, I practiced throwing and catching the ball every day. So if it was us, we will use S, right, the British English. But Americans will use C for even a verb. This is a verb here. Subject, verb. I did what? This is the action word, right? So just for you to know. So in the first context here is actions are obviously a device to buy time means what? Here the meaning is, it's his ploy, scheme, trick. I don't know why I put C, big. Trick, whatever, right? He's trying to con you. Here, it's some sort of an object that has been made for this particular purpose, to measure minute quantities of matter. And the last one is, we devised a scheme to help him, meaning to form, to plan, to arrange, design, right? Yeah? See, there are always exceptions to these. What we've looked at is, at least in these three words, advise, practice and devise, C is the noun and S is the verb. That may not be the case for all the words, right? We'll have to be very careful, because that's where English becomes a little tricky, and that all these exceptions come into play. We'll have to keep that in mind. Let's look at homophones. What are these homophones? Homophones are words that sound the same but have different spellings and different meanings. For example, I just wanted to compliment you for the wonderful speech you gave tonight. The scarf is a perfect compliment to her outfit. The doctor said his condition was stationary. They sell books and stationery. His principal interest in life was money. The teacher sent me to the principal's office. She did not eat meat because it was against her principle. So in all these example sentences, right, the only difference, if you say, it's like one letter difference, right? I took it off. E. Here it's A and E. Here it's AL, here it's LE, right? So here, I just wanted to compliment you for the wonderful speech you gave tonight. What's the meaning of this? Basically, you compliment people, right? If you feel they look nice, hey, you have a beautiful smile. You look really good today. Right? So if you compliment someone, you're telling them that you admire something about what they have or what they've done. On the other hand, the scarf is a perfect complement to her outfit means, so the outfit and the scarf, when you bring them together, right, both of them are increasing each other's qualities. That's what it means. The doctor said his condition was stationary. Here it's an adjective, right, which means in this example, this person is showing no change, right? In other example, it means basically not moving, fixed. They sell books and stationery. Here we're just talking about office supplies, right? So whatever, paper, pens, envelopes, not enveloped, sorry, envelopes. Yep. His principal interest in life was money. What is the meaning here? Here, again, it's an adjective, and the meaning is his chief interest or the most important interest in life for him is, it's all about money. The teacher sent me, this we know, right? We're talking about the person. The principal of a school or a college. She did not eat meat because it was against her principles. Meaning, here, what is the context that we're talking about? Basically, it's just an idea that this person has, right? Like a rule. So somebody follows a particular rule because based on their behavior or ideas. Okay? So we have an idea now. So this principle is a noun. This is also a noun, right? We're talking about a person here. So PLE is always a noun, but PAL can be a noun as well as an adjective. We just saw two examples here. Or sometimes another meaning is, if I say, so if somebody says, hey, pay the principal on the debt, which means they're talking about the capital sum money. That's another example, which I had not put down here, but just so you know, right? So PAL can have different meanings even as a noun. Okay, so time for us to quickly test our understanding. So you pick the answers and then we'll know for sure. Ranjit, don't worry about it. Answer the first 5 questions and leave, Vijay Lakshmi. So they hung or hanged him by his arms and beat him. The traitor was hanged or hung for treason. Vampires have raised or have risen since the beginning of time. If you paint your flat, that will raise or rise the value of it considerably. The greedy company president did not hesitate to engage in illicit or illicit practices to increase the size of his annual bonus. Surprisingly, the gruesome images of the murder did not elicit or elicit any feelings of sympathy from the killer. The report shows the effect of noise on people. According to the store owner, online sales won't greatly affect his business because he has a loyal customer base. Investors were advised of the risk. Most have now left the country on the advice of their governments. Right, so I have a lot of people giving the answers. So remember we said if the person is not where the rope is tied by his neck and he's left to hang until his death, if it's some other body part, we will use hung and not hanged, right? For those of you who came back and said hanged for the first one, incorrect. Ashi, correct. They hung him by his arms and beat him, right? The traitor was hanged for treason. That's right. Vampires have risen. Remember? Rise, rose, risen, intransitive verb. Since the beginning of time, since is my preposition. This is a prepositional phrase. It's not a direct object. If you paint your flat, that will raise what object? Direct object, raise the value of it considerably. The greedy company president did not hesitate to engage in practices is my clue. It has to be illicit, adjective. Surprisingly, the gruesome images of the murder did not evoke any feelings, elicit any feelings of sympathy from the killer. The report shows the definite article, clue. I need a noun. The what of noise? The effect of noise. According to the stoner, online sales is my subject, won't greatly do what? Affect. Verb, action word. Investors were, clue, helping verb, was where, right? Advised. With a z sound, that's how it's pronounced, advised. Most have now left the country on the definite article again, clue. Articles precede nouns, advice with a s. Yeah? Let's look at the last 5. He never gets the chance to put his ideas into. He practiced as a lawyer for 30 years. The challenge was to devise a proposal that kept costs to a minimum. This is a devise or device for avoiding income tax. Shri smiled when his crush gave him a compliment about his new haircut. A great relationship is found when two people complement not complete each other. Only use the handbrake when your vehicle is stationary with E or A. Get some envelopes from the office stationery, E or A. We follow the principle, LE or AL, that everyone should be treated equally. Our principal concern is the well-being of our children. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Okay, I already have answers. Ashi says the first one is put ideas into practice. Sir, yes. He practiced. Yes. Subject, verb, he, subject, practiced. Yeah. The challenge was to plan, design a proposal, right? SE. This is a clue, article, C, noun. Shri smiled when his crush gave him a. So basically, telling this person that he looks good. So it has to be compliment. A great relationship is found when two people complement each other. When they come together, you know, they are good together. Only use the handbrake when your vehicle is fixed, not moving. ARY, get some envelope from the office. ERY, we follow the principle, a rule, a standard that everyone should be treated equally. Our principal, remember here it's an adjective. Our principal concern is the noun, is the well-being of our children. If you got all this right, then you're good to go. Miley, Rahul, Vijay. Okay, so you're giving me the words, but I don't know for which sentence. So if you put it as 1, 2, it'll be easier to follow, but not to worry. The idea is that you get an understanding of these confusing words and not make a mistake going forward, right? And there are a lot of words like this. So continue expanding your vocabulary. I've just mentioned a few of them right here. There are a lot more confusing word pairs with respect to noun verbs or homophones or otherwise. So keep practicing and keep learning. I will catch you guys on Thursday at 11 o'clock with another informative session. Have a nice day, guys. Bye.